From the man who almost had a conversation, we present to you Raw Edit Podcast.
You see it recording, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So this episode is cost of living. Cost of living. I thought I'd do this one a bit differently, yeah. And I thought, what do you think personally is the biggest cost of personally, what is the biggest impact cost of living has had on you? Like, what's the biggest change you've made?
I would say thing is, I'm not much of a consumer.
Really?
So nah, I don't really buy shit.
So what's the thing you indulge in though?
I would say tech
Swear.
is the biggest thing. Yeah, it's the biggest thing and like food and stuff. So food is probably the biggest thing that has impacted me from a cost perspective. But my mentality behind it, I'm aware of price increases, but if I want something, I'm gonna buy it.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that, like, say I go to a coffee shop and they're like, oh, coffee at one point was, say, £5, now it's £6.50. I'm gonna be like, oh, okay. I'm aware of the price increase, but I'm still gonna buy it. You know?
Yeah.
Or like you go into the grocery store, you're aware that there's certain foods that are increasing. Obviously there's some essentials that you need to buy. Your standard, your milk, your eggs, your bread.
Yeah.
Those are the things people buy on a day-to-day. So they're gonna have to spend the money on it. But they may cut back on, instead of buying Heinz beans, they may buy Tesco and Value beans. You know? They're aware of the price increase, so they dial down on the quality or the quantity that they purchase. But yeah, I would definitely say food is the biggest thing that's impacted me, I would say.
What kind of, just on a side note, sorry, what kind of tech do you buy? I didn't know that about you.
It's more like gaming stuff or PC stuff, Mac stuff, Apple. A big Apple fiend, I would say. So yeah, I buy Apple products, games and stuff like that.
Okay. And you ain't really dialed back on that
not
too
the
much.
biggest. No, not really. Because I guess a lot of it is business expense as well. So the business is paying for business expense. So again, I'm not sure if it. Yeah, again, it's just I'm like, I just buy. I don't consume much clothes and stuff like that. Obviously, I go out and experience stuff. So you see certain things are increasing in price there. But again, like, if I want something, I'm gonna buy it. I'll find a way to buy it.
I kind of agree with you on that one. Like, I kind of agree.
So there might be a sense where I'm like, okay, I want X, but at the moment I can't afford X. So when I can afford it, I'll buy it. So yeah, but if there's something I can afford there and then, I'll be like, yeah, I'll just buy it, regardless of the price to a degree.
You know what's interesting with that? Because in this cost of living, what's happened a lot, I've noticed, is the secondhand market has grown. So buying clothes, for example, from like Depop, Vinted has grown. So it's like you said, you're not a big consumer necessarily of clothes, but I was and still am to a degree. And I noticed I go more in the eBay, Depop, Vinted, and that's grown tremendously in that. And it's kind of interesting that you said, like, people are not compromising what they want; they're just finding other ways to get it.
I know, I get it. Yeah,
which is
like, yeah, and that puts money in people's pockets as well. So like the fact that if you have a pair of trainers that I want, instead of buying it from Foot Locker, I might buy same reasonable quality, maybe 80% of the quality, 90%, maybe more than a couple times. But I get it from you, and I'm putting a little bit of change in your pocket, and I'm getting what I want at a cheaper price. So yeah, I'll definitely say the secondhand market is definitely increased. And you have seen, like, as you said, like Depop companies come out like that, and from this type of issue that's arisen in terms of the cost of living. So yeah, it's definitely risen the amount of, obviously people are more conscious about buying new stuff in terms of like being eco, so they'll rather buy secondhand tech as well. So it's not increasing the demand for new. It's increasing the demand for recycled and reused and repurposed items.
Yeah. Quick one, yeah. So you see I guess the audience doesn't know this, but you're in New Zealand, and
Yeah.
do they is Depop Vinted big out there? Is that a thing out there?
Not those particular brands, I would say. There's one company called Trade Me. They use Facebook Marketplace a lot. That's a big thing
Of course.
over here.
Facebook Market is still big here as well.
Yeah, I don't really use Facebook, so and I never really use Facebook Marketplace when I use eBay. I'm like an eBay person, or every now and again I run on Depop. But yeah, they have Trade Me, they have Facebook Marketplace, and they have secondhand shops is a big thing in terms of purchasing things from. They call it op shops.
They call it what?
Just basically like secondhand op shops.
Op.
It's weird. Op, yeah, like an op, like you're on op.
Yeah, that's mad. That's mad. That'll take a while to adjust to.
Yeah, facts. But yeah, they have those, and they have charity shops. So that's a big thing that people would.
When I was researching before, they said they got a lot of boutique stores, generally boutique coffee shops, boutique stuff. So that does make sense. It does sound in line with New Zealand. What's the natives called again in New Zealand? Are they Maoris?
Oh, Kiwis.
Kiwis.
Oh, the natives. Oh, the natives. Oh, Maori.
Maori. Yeah. So
Maori
maybe
Pacific, yeah.
did they own the shop? Those kind of stores.
No, I would say the Maori are like the minorities of New Zealand. I'm not sure in terms of minority is the right term, because they, in terms of numbers, but in terms of how they're treated, because obviously it's a colonized country, island, what you want to call it. So yeah, they're the, as you said, the natives. So the fact that the Europeans, the English came over and essentially massacred them, they're seen
What's
as
new?
quote unquote second class citizens, quote unquote, in it. So they obviously have a lot of issues with policing, a lot of issues with education, with racism in workplaces and stuff like that. So yeah, a bit of a side note, but yeah, interesting dynamic. It's basically they're like that essentially. Yeah,
anyone black can relate to that. Anyone black in the UK can relate to that. So we overstand that one. We overstand it. We said in the previously in the episode that's never been seen about the food spikes. So I was saying like how Lidl's got less on their shelf. Aldi. Oh, do I go to Aldi enough? I'll say Lidl. Lidl's got less on their shelf. But what I've noticed, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about you when I was going shopping in Co-op. I only go Co-op because I have to. I know there's cheaper. That this packaging is got smaller. But it's the same. It's the same price. In fact, it might have gone up. It might have gone up. So like, I don't remember exactly how much pasta used to be, but I'd say between 50 to 70p for a packet of pasta. Yeah, I'm talking brown pasta. Not gluten at all. Now it's £1, and I swear to you, bro, it's smaller. I swear to you, it's smaller. It must be smaller. It looks smaller. I get less meals out of it. And I'm just like, I think the reason why I thought you were the best person to talk to about cost of living, is just like, have you, oh my God, my brain's gone blank. This is what happens when you wake up early. Have you heard of the World Economic Forum?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
What I know the tagline was, "You will own nothing and be happy about it." Do you remember what it was called?
Yeah.
What was the name?
I'm not sure the tag, but I'm not sure what it was associated, but I've heard that tagline, that slogan.
Yeah, because it's starting to feel like it's harder to own a house in the UK, especially in London. I looked into New Zealand; it's quite similar. The difficulties owning homes,
it's crazy prices,
and it's
crazy
like
prices.
When you look at when you look at like Help to Buy schemes, for example, it tends to be the rich people that are on the Help to Buy people scheme anyway, or the banks that own the 90%. So we're putting the money more into the banks. So when you hear taglines like "you own nothing" and be happy about it, it's like, okay, I don't know. You told you I'd be happy, but we definitely own less.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, with the housing example is the fact that you own less, so instead of having 100% of the house, you may have 55, 60%,
Mm,
even less sometimes. And the fact that you're happy that you are somewhat on the housing ladder, like owning a home for our generation is to some people unfathomable. They just don't see it as a realistic goal anymore. And the fact that
the Great
there's
Reset. That's what it's called.
schemes, the great reset, yeah. The fact that there's schemes that help people to quote unquote get on the property ladder, but you earn, instead of earning 100% like our parents did or grandparents did,
Mm,
you earn 45%. So you're like,
45.
oh, thank goodness I'm on the housing ladder. But really, are you? If you're not the majority,
That's the
even
thing,
if you're a
bro.
majority, even if you own 55%, it's like, are you really on the housing ladder? Because like, yeah, you don't own all of it. And at some point, I'm sure that the government can come and shift that anyway. Even if you did own 100%, it's coming to that point where if you do certain things, I'm sure the government will be like, hey, okay, no, we don't like the way you're moving. That property's ours now. We'll seize your assets because you're moving mad. But that's a discussion for another day.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because you know what it is for me, it makes you more uneasy. So, I was watching I'm gonna call her a vlogger, and she was talking about the instability of renting, that you always feel like you're constantly on the move. And it kind of piggybacks off what you're saying. If you own 55%, you're the majority. Or for example, like some of our friends, that not to name names, who own less than the majority,
Mm.
has that instability really left? Because the whole point of owning a home was to create what? Stability, innit? So
Yeah.
I'm questioning as like, we definitely own less, and the instability, the angst, the uncertainty, that quiet level of despair that lives in people, it don't seem to be going. Do you get me?
And even facts. And even when you do say you're a lucky few that own 100% of your home, you've got a mortgage and everything. When the banks decide to put the interest rates up,
Bro,
your mortgage payment's going from £1,000 a month to 1,500, and you're like, whoa, I could to some degree just about afford my previous mortgage, plus food, plus having some sort of life, traveling to work. If you live in London and traveling to the city, if you're in zone 4, you're spending what, £300 a month? You probably even more than that. I can't
I
remember what
think
it
that's
was.
one of the biggest
It's
scams,
crazy.
people can call me
And
crazy. I think
then
it's one of the biggest scams.
fact,
Traveling to
and
work,
then
yeah,
after
should
that,
be free.
your employee should pay for it. No doubt about that. No doubt
All
about
come
that.
off your tax. All come off your tax.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
It's crazy. Sorry, I interrupted you.
And then no, in fact, and no, it's a good point. And then so you just about were getting by with a certain interest rate, and then for whatever reason, COVID hit, banks lending out money like a mad thing, and then they increase interest rates to try and recuperate back all that money they gave out. And now your mortgage payment's gone from £1,000 a month to 1,500. And on the top of that, so you're struggling to pay your mortgage, that increase. And on top of that, your food's going up, your travel's going up, your heating's going up. Like, what
Nuts.
were you supposed to do? So that's the instability you're talking about increases. And it's not even just for homeowners, it's for renters as well. Because you're at the whim of your landlord. So
Bruv.
your rent might be £100 a month, £1,000 a month, and it goes up by 400, like goes up by 40%. And you're like, what?
In
You're
London, it's the
increasing my
quality. It's
yeah.
it's the quality. Like, you're paying a lot more for a room, bro. People
Yeah.
in London are paying upwards of what, £900 for a room, bro. A room, bro. Do you get what I'm
It's mad.
saying? So if you're single in London, it's peak. But I have a question to ask. It's conspiratorial. Allow me. It's post pandemic, yeah, things have just gone up. Things have gone in a direction that, like we said, we said in the previous one, that's never been seen before. Shell's interest went up. That's more in relation to the war. But for example, banks are now have greater stakes in the housing property, which is one of the most solid economic investing branches, right? So post-COVID, the corporations have been are the beneficiaries. We live in a corporatized economy. Was COVID, did they manipulate COVID to suit them? Because we were talking about there's going to be hella L's because of COVID. Or was COVID a pandemic? You hear me? What we saying? Because it just seems like since COVID hit, people were dying. People are taking now financial. If you live, you take financial L's. Yeah. Honestly, when I was researching, I don't want to be morbid because I know this kind of episode can be depressing, but I'm hearing children are going hungry in the first world country. So was it a plan, this pandemic? It's just a question. What do you think? I want to know what you think. Honestly, don't be afraid to say
it. There's definitely certain things you see online where you're like, so for example, the way the dollar's weakening at the moment, I'm not sure if you know about is it BRICS? The fact that the Sauds,
I might,
China,
but the audience might not. So just give them a little lowdown.
Essentially, China, Brazil, India, Saudi Arabia, Russia. I think those are the 5 key countries. They are essentially coming together to create a currency that's backed by commodities again, so backed by gold, from my understanding, and that takes away America's hegemony on the global financial system, essentially, because everyone trades in a dollar at the moment, or say 50 years ago, or most recent times, everyone trades in a dollar. So if Saudi Arabia is selling oil to Russia, they trade in a dollar, regardless of whatever currencies they have, they do that. The fact that these countries are becoming sick of the way the central bank in America and the federal banking system essentially is operating, and how obviously we're aware that America uses their war machine to spread their influence across the world.
Absolutely.
The fact that they're now people are moving away from the dollar is weakening America's grip on the world. With that being said, one can argue that the West has always been at quote unquote war in competition with China. So it's not too unrealistic to believe that China could want to do something to cripple America. And that could be seen in some sort of warfare. So obviously you don't really want to go to war in this day and age. Like, that's not the most sensible way to cripple an economy or a country. It's effective, but it's not the most effective way.
Especially in America, with just for the audience out there, right? I know you already know this. This is just for them. Is especially when you spoke about America's military might, it's so much more advanced than what we even understand. I mean, I've heard Iron Man suits. I've heard so much about what they have. It is incredibly unwise for anyone to try and go up against America in conventional warfare. So that's why they're going through it through committee of and through economic ventures with the BRICS. Sorry, continue. Just so I can give people a little bit of a, you know what I'm saying?
No, so yeah, it's not unrealistic to think that they may want to do something to destabilize America, and it's now been proven that COVID was made in a lab, and it was due to some sort of lab leak or whatever.
Do you think it was a lab leak though?
Well, it could be a leak, it could be done purposefully, who knows?
What do you think though?
I definitely have a conspiratorial outlook on. I don't trust the government. I don't.
Least of all, Chinese government. Least of all, Chinese.
We just don't know what they're doing in it. Like, their communist nature just doesn't allow them to share anything with their quote unquote enemies or
Outsiders.
people that don't have outsiders, essentially. So it could well be that they did it on purpose. Who knows?
For the audience, he basically thinks that. He basically thinks that. Right, if it cuts, you know what? I'm just gonna click it back. So don't even worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting how things are going to maneuver in the next few years.
It is.
With all of this.
You know what I'd recommend? For people out there who find this a little bit interesting or whatever. Rao as well, if you haven't seen, there's a video called Big Think, and it's a Big Think. If you type in Big Think, 10 biggest problems facing 2023. The top two were Maximum Xing Xiaoping, which is the leader of China. Essentially, it's kind of what you were saying before, that the Chinese government have now got 1000% control over that state. So anything they say, you don't know if it's true or not, because it's in their best interest to say what they believe. People want to hear. So was it a leak? Wasn't it a leak? I'm not sure. They have maximum lockdown too now in China. So if it's not a leak, what confuses me, if it's a leak, why are you still reaping the effects of COVID? But also,
I mean, I guess it's just sorry to cut you off. I guess it's just smart, though, isn't it? Like, so if I'm moving mad, I don't want. If I inflict something on you, I'm also gonna have to take some collateral damage as well. So it's not as obvious that it was me.
That's a chess move.
You say, "Oh, it's impact." Exactly. That's some art of war shit, fam. And you don't make it too obvious that it was me. So you think, okay, cool, because it's affecting China as well. They couldn't have been behind it. Well, they may have been behind it, but it's not as obvious, you know. But yeah, continue, sorry.
But yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. I was throwing the question out for people because the leader of the Chinese government, he's very much now in it was always a dictatorship, but now it's a complete dictatorship. I mean, anyone that even questions him is killed. And the other one is the Russian thing. I mean, Russia has what did Putin say? He's threatened to freeze the West, freeze the West into death or something like that. And Russia,
in terms of like the gas and stuff.
Yeah, Russia, it were a part of the BRIC as well, and they're another country that has been in war with the West for forever. And it is in their best interest that when we have spiked energy bills, on top of that, we have spiked energy bills. We get so much of our wheat from Ukraine and Russia. It's different for people in New Zealand, of course, because you get yours from Australia, I believe.
Yeah, Australia or homegrown,
Yeah. Crazy amount of sheep they got there, guys. Crazy sheep in New Zealand. But it supports what you're saying about the BRICS. Saudi Arabia now have a fractured relationship with America. It is, I would say, cause for pause. Is this a greater conspiratorial plan by them? Maybe. If you look at the countries, there are 5 powers that are outside the West: Russia, China, Saudi Arabia. Is it India?
I think India, yeah.
India, and there was another one. Was it 5?
Oh, maybe Iran. Maybe it was Iran.
Oh, it was Iran.
Maybe it was Iran.
Also, people need
India
to
want to join.
Yeah, people need to look at this as well. They are all nuclear threats. They're all nuclear threats. Again, I'm not trying to throw doom and gloom out there, but it's a lot of cause for pause. What is going on with the cost of living? Because also, the reckless spending from governments is crazy. Like there's a lot of problems that happen in my own personal life that I can't anticipate, but there's a lot of problems that do happen that I anticipate. So I find ways to either evade or deal with them. And I just wonder, why are our politicians that negligent? Are they that dumb?
I think not a lot of people, even the politicians, like maybe they don't even understand the monetary policy that they've implemented.
That's crazy, you know.
Like
That's
inflation
the
is a real thing.
scariest thing to me.
Yeah, like you got to think, like you got to question that, like the fact that they know about inflation and the fact that they must be aware of like printing money out of thin air is going to make things go up, because if there's more money in circulation without any real cause, well, there's obviously a cause, but there's no real reason to increase the amount of money and supply. Or the more people have, the more things are going to get expensive, essentially.
Mm.
Are they aware of it? Like,
Sometimes I don't know if
surely,
I'm not sure. Sorry to cut you off. I'm not sure. I'm not sure because when I hear them speak in interviews, they see, I don't know if they're such prisoners of their own bubble that they recite what the data is. And then it's just like, it doesn't match people's actual living standards. So yesterday, before the episode I did with Rem, the meeting I had with Rem, I was watching Question Time, and this lady was saying, doctors actually are one of the most highly paid people in the UK. And I thought, this fool ain't getting it, because it's not about being one of the highest paid. If you're the tallest midget, you're still a midget. Like it doesn't change anything. You're not understanding that the
that
scale.
makes it even worse if the fact that doctors can't pay for stuff.
Bro, exactly, bro. It's like they don't understand the scale is so fucked up and low that people can't afford much anyway. So I kind of agree with you. They may not understand their monetary policy. It does worry me that when I look at other countries, are the other countries smarter than us? I don't know. Definitely, one thing I agree with you with is China do have a plan. China definitely, sorry, you're not that secretive because you're that secretive. There's definitely some sort of exchanging or change of power going on, and there is a change in society, sorry, not in society, in the world, in the globe, that everyone needs to be prepared for. The thing I worry about when people talk about China is, about China's not only what's the word? China they've got internal issues in terms of population, which everyone has. Everyone's population is dropping outside of India and Nigeria, and they got the ghost cities, the cities that are like Canary Wharf. And
yeah, I've seen a lot about, and I've looked into the housing crisis over there as well. Like
they got a housing crisis in China too.
Yeah, so essentially, what these companies do is that they build all these digital layouts of apartment blocks and stuff like that, and they get people that are interested. Those people pay deposits, and then they use those deposits to build more houses instead of finishing the houses that they've already started. And then they get interested to say, instead of having 1,000 houses or 1,000 depositors from those new houses that they've started building, they have 2,000 depositors because more people are interested, and they use their money to
pyramid scheme,
build more. Exactly, essentially that. And none of the houses get finished, so people are expecting to move in a certain time, and the house doesn't get finished because they need more money to finish the houses that they've already started, but they're using that money to get more people to buy houses. So it's mad, and that causes, in some instances, to create these ghost cities, because they build things pretty fast in China as well. Like they build these, when they do build stuff, they build them pretty fast, and there's just no one to move into them. So then they have to demolish them.
All right. I'm gonna run to the toilet. Yeah, this is gonna, you, for the audience, basically we're gonna and go into the next scene. For Ra, I'm gonna send you a link in 2 secs, and go about 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes. Keep that thought though. China and the house. All right, cool.
Sweet.
We're back and live. Back and live. We're talking about China and the housing and their housing market. Also, I know for one thing, the Russian economy as well is suffering. So that sphere of BRIC that is are creating these plans that are against American interest. They themselves have the same problems as us. That's the interesting thing. They have the or very. I mean, Russia's population is aging even more rapidly than ours.
I think it's. I think it's everyone's been impacted by cost of living, by aging population, by lack of the birth rate going down, all that sort of stuff. But I guess it'd be good to know, why that is. Is it? I think the World Monetary Policy is definitely a cause of that. One could ask the question: is America the reason for the state of the world monetary kind of climate? Because obviously, since they moved from the gold standard, I think it was in the 80s with Nixon. Since then, everything's pretty much because money's not backed by anything at the moment.
Their argument with gold was that it was limiting, that they found that gold limited the growth of the country, which does imply, yes, greed was the real reason why they removed it. But that's the argument against having gold, is because you can only grow so fast because you need to grow with the amount of gold you actually have.
I hear that, but then if there's only X amount of gold, then surely the dollars that are pegged to the gold then gets more scarce. So things, I'm not sure. Things just quantify within that realm, no? If you know what I mean.
No, I do. I think it's how you want to look at it. Do you want to grow more, or do you want to have something sustainable? And I think in the 80s, where money was booming, and you had the bankers becoming even more investing even more in houses. I forgot what they were called, but essentially there was subprime mortgages was becoming more of a thing around then. They're just thinking it's money is one of the biggest addictions in the world. You see money coming in, you're like, how do I get more of it? And I think that's why no one took that moment to pause, like you said, and say, okay, is this sustainable? Because what was done in the 80s, 40 years later, we would all be living in our own homes. Well, let me not say all of us, but a lot of us would have be property owners now. But because of what happened in the excessive wealth in the 80s, the crash in 08, it's less of a thing. A lot of people do believe it's a part of a larger plan. I don't know. I just know that corporations that aren't people are benefiting, and I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Have I frozen?
No, you're good. I was just looking at when America moved away from the gold standards. It was the 70s, actually. I think
70s. Okay, 70s. Was it late 70s?
I think it was early 70s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, closed the gold window in 1971 in order to address the nation's inflation problem.
That was it. A good place
to discourage foreign governments from redeeming more and more dollar for gold.
Okay. A good place to go for people who want to get more information on this is something called Economics Explained. It's funny enough, an Australian guy, bro.
Yeah.
He goes into depth a lot. He has an episode on this day where he discusses. That's where I got the thing about that's where I got the thing about the gold standard slowing down their growth rate, essentially. That's where I got it from. It wasn't something I just plucked up from the air. Good place to go. There's many things. I mean, Gaddafi tried to bring back gold. He wanted Africa to trade in gold.
I've heard about that. They wanted a one currency for Africa, and they wanted to come back. bring
like a
all the
euro.
African nations together, and
Mm,
yeah, and
yeah.
America were like, hey, hold on a second,
Before
you're
before
supposed
the,
to be a dictator.
before
You're
they
supposed to
beat
be
before they beat us up on the comments, it was America, specifically France as well. Because I said something in the comments, and it was France that
yeah,
was the initiator. I believe we know America,
yeah,
Britain were all the
yeah,
ones prompting France, but the one that actually put the silver bullet in them was France. Just because I was raked through the coals in the comment section in the Shea Borough for that. So so
no,
I don't want to be
but
attacked, but yeah, essentially the West said, nah, fuck that. You ain't doing that.
yeah,
You ain't
yeah, doing
you
that.
you ain't doing that over here. So yeah, where we go from that. I mean, again, I'm not trying to label Gaddafi a good man, but he's a man that had a lot of ideas, and he was an American backed man. He was a West backed man, and as soon as you do something
Up to a
contrary to the
certain point,
West,
yeah.
you
That's why,
end up dead.
yeah, you said it. He had all these, as you said, he had positive and negative stuff about him. Um, but what you got to say is, the country was a lot better whilst he was there until
Mm.
afterwards.
Mm. It was one of the it was one of the fastest growing economies in the world.
In Africa, yeah.
I forgot the capital of Libya, but it was a modern state. It was a modern state. Fun fact for anyone out there: Gaddafi nearly took over Manchester United.
Really?
Yeah, there's a Tifo video on YouTube. If you type in Tifo Gaddafi United, you'll find out that he nearly bought them because he was very similar to these Saudi and UAE princes, where he had
Yeah.
so much wealth, bro, so much wealth. So that just goes to further show like his relationship that he had with the West. That there was a relationship, 100% a relationship there. So uh, he was a West guy till he started to work in Africa's interest.
Mm,
So it's
definitely.
yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, and I think that's where we're going to talk about this in another episode. But like where Andrew Tate has grown, because we're now just seeing these corporations, these systems working so much adversely against us. It's kind of like we were
Mm,
saying before recording. When you're in business, you've always got to think, what am I offering this person? So when you enter a job, a lot of people think it starts off with you telling them in your CV, in your interview, what do you offer me? No, what I offer you, sorry. I'm going to offer
yeah,
you my time. I've got X amount of experience in whether it be marketing or digital analyst or probation work. You can you start off doing that, and then throughout the months, you're like, what are you offering me? You're offering me a paycheck, but it's barely getting me through the month. I only get it once a month. I only get X amount of days. What are you offering me? I'm
and
not
when I get you, say I'm in sales and I hit my target.
exceed your
Some
target.
places don't even exceed your target. Some places don't even offer bonuses, and then sometimes is the bonus equivalent to the amount of revenue you're bringing in for or profits you're bringing in for the company. So there's all these questions you begin asking yourself.
And that's where those people have grown, bro, because the Andrew Tates of the world is we are now looking at these systems so finitely, these corporations, these countries. That's why conspiracy theories have grown, because we're like, I'm bringing a lot to the table. I'm bringing a lot to this table, and I'm not seemingly reaping the benefits of my direct work.
Mm.
Dropping living standards. And my thing is, we're starting to see that. Is there a riot revolution round the corner? Or when are we as a people gonna riot? When are we gonna
Or like the French.
yeah, because my thing is I said something in the comments the other day, probably Shay, bro. And a lot of people were like, oh, you're not gonna do it. How can one man riot? I don't understand why no one why there's not enough veracity in this, because if you are under 70, 80K a year, which is most people in the UK, by the way, if you're over that, you're in the top 5%, you're really struggling. And if you're 70, you're not doing too great unless you came from wealth anyway. You're doing good. Don't get me wrong. You're doing good. You probably live in a nice place, but you off 70 alone, you can't buy a place. 70K, bro. 70K, you can't buy a home. So I don't know why is everyone so silent? Why do you think this? Well, why are we not rioting like the French? And are they rioting in New Zealand?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a cultural thing. Obviously, the French Revolution is baked into their culture. Like, if they're not happy with the government, like for example, recently they started rioting because it's not Trudeau, Macron was going to increase the retirement age by 2 years.
Yes, yeah,
and the
yeah.
French
Yeah.
were like, nah, we're not having this. So they
Mm.
started rioting. And I recently saw videos on Twitter about the French going into essentially banks and hedge funds and stuff like that, and basically protesting in the top 1% arena instead of doing what people do in the UK and block the roads of everyday people.
That's the
Sit on top of
environmentalists.
trains.
Yeah,
sit on top of trains to prevent them from going to work. They're actually going into the big corporations and the big banks and like protesting there. But yeah, I just don't think it's in our culture. People haven't experienced hard times in a long time, so they're not willing to do anything about it. They don't know how to do anything about it. Yeah, but I've had this conversation. I think we spoke about it in the hidden
episode.
podcast.
The hidden episode.
Just about how, personally, I think the way in which people protest needs to be brought up to the modern age. I think gone are the days it's still effective, don't get me wrong, but gone are the days where you would literally just march on the streets. Obviously, it shows solidarity, it shows numbers, it shows people coming together, but we're now in a digital age. We're now in a internet era. So protest needs to be moved, or not moved, but migrate into the digital realm as well. So like, for example, digital sit-ins, instead of just going and sitting in a shop, you actually go you flood people's servers. So people can't go onto the websites, they can't do business. You shut down servers, all that sort of stuff. If you haven't watched Mr. Robot, it's a sick show, fam.
What's
Mr.
the show?
Robot, on Mr. Robot. It's on I think it's on Amazon. But it's basically about, not to spoil the whole plot, but it's about them getting rid of all the debt in the world. No one has debt. They wipe all that information off the internet.
That is an idea. So modernize it, flood servers, flood business servers, maybe if you want to really get something out of the NHS, flood the NHS's server, crash their server. Oh, that could risk lives. I don't want to be.
Yeah, but like
I'm getting what you're saying.
Yeah.
Maybe blackouts on certain social media platforms, and I'm not just saying like they did in the pandemic, just post black. Fuck that. What was that, bro? That was what the fuck was that? I love that idea. I think you're onto something with that. I also think I have a short. Yeah, man. I quite like that idea, because I agree with you, because it does feel a bit sometimes like what you find in protests a lot. I went to the Chris Cabba's one, and what you found was people was like, what's going to change? Was the thing. What's going to change? And I think the problem is, like you said, it's not hardwired into our consciousness, even as much as the American people, especially American Black people, where when we say riot is a disturbance. Do you get what I'm saying? It's a disturbance. We need to cause a disturbance. Ooh, what's going on here? You can see me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, facts.
Yeah, and
like you have to. I think you just have to impact people's pockets, and not regular people. I'm talking about the people, the top echelons, the people that run things. You need to
crash
impact their pockets,
banking
because then
servers.
they'll be like, oh my gosh, we're not able to make money. Something needs to.
I've always thought that between 70 to 80% of the population say if this doesn't change soon enough, no one going to work. I've always thought that, because if 70 to 80% of people don't go into work, you're done. You're done. There is no economy anymore, and no one sees that. Like as individually, like me and you saying this, it means nothing. But if 80% of the New Zealand population, the UK population did that, they're fucked. They're fucked. If half of MOJ, for example, not even half, let's say 40% of them didn't turn up, they're fucked. They're fucked. They could run their business. If 80% didn't turn up, done. Some sort of drastic change will happen. I think the problem is like you said, we're not used to revolution. We're not used to rioting. We're not used to causing a disturbance. British culture, and it's similar in New Zealand because they are migrated Brits essentially, is steady as you go. Steady.
But do you think it's even bad enough? Do you think the conditions at the moment are bad enough for people to say, you know what, something has to change? Because you've got to think of what happened in Egypt. Where else?
With the Arab Spring.
With the Arab Spring, that's when people came together and were like, nah, we're not having this anymore. Do you think it's actually bad enough in the West for people to say?
I think it's perspective, because if you have a roof over your head and you can eat, you're not going to think, okay, but what if it gets slightly worse? Do you know what I'm saying? No, I guess the short answer is no, it's not bad enough. But I think people can't see what's on the horizon. I'm not going to say I'm not saying apocalyptic, but it starts to weave into there's going to be mass deaths. Like it's just harder to eat, so people eat less. If you're at the bottom of the economic scaling.
But do you know what's crazy? Like, because I remember every year when I was back in the UK, there'll be episodes on Good Morning Britain or whatever those shows where when people will be like, older people will be like, I have to decide whether to heat my home or eat today.
Yeah, I remember that as well.
Dinner. Like every year you would hear those stories.
Yeah, you're right.
And you're like, what? It's actually mad when you think about it. Like the fact that there's people out there when money is so abundant.
That's what.
Let's be real. Like the amount of money that's out there, there's enough for everyone.
There is.
Obviously, we know the 1% hoard their wealth, all that sort of stuff.
I think also hoarding is a mentality. You feel like if you're so attached to it that if you let it go, you're in danger. That's the big thing about the 1%, because the 1% know we're slightly fucked, but they also cannot let go of their wealth by any stretch of the imagination. And we're now dealing with, their wealth is tied into so many things. So if people looked up the person that owns the most agriculture in the US, and they're also someone who's on the climate change board, so the World Climate Change Board, it would terrify you. Look it up. Who's the person who owns the most agriculture? And
isn't it now Bill Gates? Was it not him?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
A tech billionaire
heard that.
owns the most agriculture in America and also is on the board for climate change, which essentially means he can alter the laws for climate change to benefit his agricultural interests. So is he really philanthropic for climate change, or is he just making sure he's making profit from not just his business company, his tech company, but his agricultural company? I mean, you let me know. That's why I say this. When you say, is it bad enough? I'm like, what is bad enough? Is it when there's blood in the sky and people are dying on the streets? Is that when it's bad enough? I don't know. So the answer is no. But I'm like, what when is bad enough? Because we're now in a proxy war now with Ukraine, who I remember in 2012 was saying about like Daniel Sturridge and that the blacks don't come here. Blacks do not come to Ukraine. Now we're now saying, oh, every football match you see the Ukrainian flag, and you see people saying, you know, this Ukrainian war, these poor people are suffering and dying. They are, but I'm just like, the goalpost moves so regularly that I'm like, I just find it hard to accept this anymore. That's what it is for me. I just cannot accept the bullshit, and I need a bit of change.
I hear that.
Yeah. Well. I think that one wraps us up a little bit. Is there anything you would like to add or say? Anything you want to promote?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's good things to think about, isn't it? Like, I like thinking about certain aspects of things, and it's like, but why is it? Why is this the status quo at the moment?
Why do you think it is?
As I said, I think people are just running on their hamster wheel, isn't it? They're just going with the flow. They don't have time to think about certain things because their day to day is they're struggling. They're trying to make ends meet. So I think Brexit was one big thing that people started questioning. Like, yo, politicians are clearly lying to us. 350 million a day for the NHS. Where's that? NHS is in crisis. Junior doctors striking, nurses going to food banks. So it's mad.
That 350 a day, was such bullshit. It was nuts. You know when you just hear, when I heard that, I was like, come on. But
it's a lot of money in a day,
bro. A day. You're the mathematician, you know. You're the mathematician, you know. I could not tell you 350 a day. That's what? That's 360 days, bruv.
127 billion.
Can't be billion. 360.
Yeah, 350 times 365.
Jesus Christ. So where's
170 billion. Almost a trillion.
Yeah. I was expecting you to say a trillion. Are you sure it's not a trillion? 350 million.
No, it says 127
billion. Okay.
Yeah. 750 million. Yeah. But hey, it's a lot of change.
But the problem, you know what it is, yeah. What happens, even if it was true, a lot of it goes to bureaucrats who create more red tape, which when you hear red tape, it just means more admin.
Well, that's what people like. If we leave the EU, we'll cut down on that nonsense, isn't it?
The exact opposite. The exact opposite. Like, it's crazy how much of the opposite has happened. Since Brexit, they thought it would unify the country. We are even more divided. We now have people that are red pillars, blue pillars. Are you Labour? Are you Conservative? In my opinion, there is no fucking difference. It's in the UK now, the mood of the nation is we got to get Conservative up and bring Labour up for some change, which is basically saying I'm selling my old black car for an old blue car. Like for me, it's just more, it's so much, people speak about change and it's so much more of the same. That's why it's worrying. It worries me. That's why this episode I'm talking about the cost of living was something I felt like it had to be discussed. What to end it in some positive ways, what do you think you could recommend for people out there who are struggling in the cost of living? What would you, other than get more money, what would be your best advice for them, other than also just cut down the expenditure? How would you help? What would you advise them to quell their anxieties? What kind of things would you give out there?
I would say building more community. Because I think that's one thing that doesn't really not exist, but is diminishing. The fact that a lot of people don't have like a tribe to ask for assistance or come together and have a collective approach to things, and rely on other people. Because again, back to that story about old people deciding whether to eat or to heat their homes, like with an aging population, you got to think that in the West, I would say it's not a cultural thing to look after the elderly. You put them in homes, whereas in Africa, in the Caribbean, and in Asia, you don't put them in homes. You would bring your parents, grandparents, whatever, into your home.
Yeah.
And you'll have that community. It may not be as big as like a hall, but it's generational community in that, you know? So yeah, I would say have that communal aspect. Try to find a tribe of people that you can rely on, you can help, because in some instances you may be able to help someone else, someone may be able to help you. I would say that's one thing I would recommend.
It comes back to what we were
saying. Yeah, go on.
It's kind of like what we were saying before the pod started and earlier as well, about understanding that you got to give as well as take. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's that
give to receive.
Exactly. And people need to understand it. Your net worth is your network. Yeah, it's your network. And I remember this person said, I might get cancelled for this, but whatever. This Jewish guy said to this black guy, you're never going to get my dollar. You can find the clip, type in Jewish guy says, you're never going to get my dollar to black guy. It's on Instagram. Hopefully, if I can find it, I'll post it. He says, you're never going to get my dollar. And it says that the black dollar, the black pound leaves us within 6 minutes, 6 hours, something. And the Jewish dollar circulates around the Jewish community 6-7 times before it leaves. And it's kind of back to what you're saying about that community. Recognize, because it's not they're specifically targeting their Jewish people. They're just so strong in their community. It's like, if they want to go to a bakery, they have a Jewish bakery. Sorry. It's like, and a lot of the systems that are being spoken about that should replace capitalism are about having localized communities. So I think that's a great thing to say, to understand that your network is your net worth is your network. It's helped me build this podcast, which I know it's probably nothing for the people that are watching, but it's helped me build it. You know what I'm saying? And it's how a lot of people start. Jordan has told the story about how he made Glide, and he got the speaker from his auntie. He got help with other things. Anything you want to do in life, you got to use the network around you. Use the network around you, and make sure you offer your network if you can't offer them money, offer them your service and time. That's my biggest thing. If you can't offer money, offer people your service and time, because time is more valuable than money. So we don't want to. It will help mitigate things. Instead of, I know you're a coffee guy, but instead of going to a coffee shop all the time because you're lonely, maybe bring your friends over, sit around, make some tea. You get what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you'll get more from that than giving your money to Costa. Or, you know, if you've got friends that live in the same area, you can talk about, for example, work in the same area, for example, and you live close enough. You can say, you know, if you live here, I can drop you lot in, and you lot can chip in maybe £5, £2, and I would drop you lot
Yeah.
to work. The little things like that, and people have suggested this online, they're not original ideas. They will help with your, not just your cost of living, but the anxiety that is created by the cost of living, because you're working as a unit as opposed to an individual.
Individual, yeah. Facts.
Yeah. I feel like I've ranted long enough. You think it's a good place to consolidate?
No, definitely, it's good way to end, to be fair.
Bit positive, innit? Not that doom and gloom.
Yeah.
What's gonna end? Rapture's coming.
Yeah, one's there.
Yeah. I'm gonna end the recording now. Thanks, guys. Subscribe, follow us on the Instagram, follow us on the Twitter, the YouTube,
Stay tuned.
and Spotify. I'm gonna end the recording, but I'll chat to you for a bit, Ra, as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes in this life you can feel all by yourself. But I have a partner when I can't trust no one else. So don't isolate yourself when there's no